All right, hello everybody. My name is Mike Maniscalco with Ihiji. Today's webinar we'll be talking about Ihiji's new Service Manager product, which we released at CEDIA Expo this past year and won the CEDIA Best New Product Award for this product. So we're really excited to talk about the product with you today, show you what we're doing with it, talk a little more about how we got here, and answer your questions. So I'm going to start by talking a little bit about the history behind this project and how we got here and what we were looking at. We spent a lot of time going out into the field and researching where you guys were having problems. And sorry, I'm getting feedback on me. There we go. And while we were out there doing that, we sat and listened to service calls and how people were dealing with customer service calls and complaints and tickets and what the process was and the workflow was when the customer called in. And I want to kind of talk through what we witnessed while we were out in the field because it really was kind of eye-opening. When a customer picks up the phone and calls your office, they're typically dialing into your main line. And an admin on the other end of the phone says, "Hello, this is Acme Company. How can I help you?" The customer then gives them their phone number, gives them their address, gives them their name, and the admin says, "Okay, well, which house are you calling about? Which location are you calling about? What device are you calling about? What's the model number, manufacturer?" You're asking a lot of questions of this customer, and really all that information that you're asking is at your disposal. You have it in documents and D-Tools and QuickBooks, but we don't have really good places to capture all this information. So the first thing the customer does is says, "Well, this is Mr. Smith. I'm calling about my Palm Beach residence, and I'm having problems in the master bedroom with this model Blu-ray player or Apple TV." And you say, "That's great." So that the picture of the stories that you're looking at looks something like this. You have a room now. And the admin's like, "Okay, well, where is that piece of equipment located? And what's the problem that you're having with it?" And he says, "Well, I don't know. It's just not working." And the next thing you're trying to do is, okay, well, which piece in the puzzle isn't working? Which device is broken? And the challenge is there are a lot of different devices in that site, and without everything working properly, it's really hard to determine where the breakdown is. So you're saying, okay, well, is the TV turning on? Oh, I don't know. I think it's on. The green light's on, but it's blinking red. And you're trying to troubleshoot this equation with a customer. It's getting really frustrated. And what usually happens is that admin then says, "Okay, well, thank you for the information, Mr. Smith. I'm going to do a little more research and I'll get back to you." And this starts what I call the game of service call hot potato. The admin hangs up the phone and calls a technician. And she says, "Hey, John, I think you were the last guy out at Mr. Smith's house. Do you remember a service call out there?" "Well, no, I wasn't out there. It was actually James. He was there, I think, a week ago. Give him a call." You called James. "James, were you out there?" "Yeah, I think I was there. Let me go back, and when I'm out of the attic, I'll check my notes." And James finally, an hour and a half, calls back later. He says, "Hey, sorry, I forgot to call you back, but I was able to go down, and I was able to check my notes." And this is what becomes interesting, is what his notes look like. And James says, "Well, when I was out there, I took really great notes. And I had these great notes in the car for a week and a half, and I never really turned them in. And by the time I got to them, this is what they look like." So this is what I call the evolution of site documentation. James had these great field notes of all the things he did while he was out in the field making changes. And by the time he got back to them, he'd spilled his lunch on them, something else had got sitting on them, and it's ruined. The notes and documentation are absolutely ruined. If you're lucky, James pulls out his iPhone and says, "Well, you know what? I took a picture of it and able to go back and find a picture of it." Or maybe I've got some details I emailed to somebody in an email. Let me go back and search my email. So you start to see the challenge here is I've just gone through 2 or 3 minutes of verbal troubleshooting to uncover a very basic service call. And this is what the majority of your service calls are like. And for the industry, this is what a majority of their service calls are like. The problem that we're facing is there is no centralized point of documentation or information for customers. What we look at as an industry is the evolution of our industry and the way things are going, and the fact that we have to provide better service for our customers. The way that we're going to survive as an industry is to provide world-class service on par with that of like the Ritz-Carlton, where when a customer calls, you're not fumbling through information. You have information at your fingertips, and that admin is able to say, "Hey, Mr. Smith, I see you're calling from Smith Residence in Palm Beach. How can I help you? You're calling about your TV's not working." "Okay, great. I see you have a Sony TV. What's not working in there?" "That's great. I see I had a technician out there 2 days ago. He made a change." And you're saying it says input 4 on the TV, but there's no picture. Well, I see from the picture that he attached to that service ticket that he actually changed the input on HDMI to input 3, and maybe they just didn't change the program. So would you mind just getting the remote control and hitting input 3? "Great, that fixed the problem." "Okay, well, I'll file a ticket here, and we'll get the programmers to change the program remotely." So that change is reflected. It must have been an oversight on our part. Now think about the story when you pick up the phone, you call a concierge desk at the Ritz-Carlton. When you pick up that phone, they say, "Hello, Mr. Maniscalco, how are you doing today? What can I do for you? I'd like to get a sandwich. I'd like to have my bags picked up." "All right, great. We'll have somebody up there in 212 or at 212. You don't have to tell them what room they're in. You don't have to tell them what your name is. You don't have to do any of that. You just get the service you expect. And that's what we're looking at in our industry today. And the beauty of all of this is if you look at the Ritz-Carlton approach, is customers pay a premium for that service. And our industry needs to learn to earn a premium off the level of service that we're providing. And what this allows us to do is create a managed service offering or service contracts. So the next thing we saw that when we were out in the field is that dealers had a very, very difficult time collecting recurring revenue from their clients. And it wasn't a matter of, well, I don't have the documents, because we provide a lot of that documentation. And it wasn't a matter of, well, we can't sell it. It's a matter of we don't have the end-to-end solution to be able to sell, collect, and renew those contracts for our customers. So recurring revenue was an issue for our dealers. A lot of our dealers are selling Envision service and forgetting to charge the customer on an annual basis and saying, well, that's great, we didn't get the revenue opportunity, but at least the solution's saving us money. That's not good for you, and it's not good for us. We want you to earn money off of our services. So one of the other things we noticed is that dealers are having a very difficult time collecting recurring revenue. And what this led us to was to create a solution called the Ihiji ServiceManager, which is the backbone for your services operations center. When we set out on this journey, we really thought that we were helping with documentation. And we thought we were going to improve the way the dealers documented their systems and extend beyond what Ihiji Envision does from a passive or an active device management system where you're seeing alerts and what's going on. Not only are you seeing alerts, but now you know what ports things are plugged into, which VLAN they're associated with, what their IP address is, what their MAC address is, what serial numbers are in there. That's what we were looking at when we set out on this research a year and a half ago. But what we learned was what I just told you. What we learned is that service is an absolute nightmare. Service in our industry is not sustainable, and there's actually a bigger problem. When customers call, there's no centralized access to information. There's no secure document repository. There's no way to track when customers are calling and who they're calling. There's no way to track customer information in a centralized resource. They're in D-Tools, they're in QuickBooks, they're in Rolodexes, they're in file folders, they're in notebooks. The customer information is spread all over your organization. The information is then stored in particular individuals' heads, and that's what we call institutional knowledge. And if that technician ever leaves your company or something happens to them, that institutional knowledge leaves with that technician. So how do we bring that institutional knowledge into a system where anybody in the company can access that information and get it out of your technicians' heads to create a better service story? How do we create a solution that will allow you to store customer information securely, such as passwords, so that when a customer replaces their Sonos or Apple TV, you're able to set up all their services so that you don't have to go and ask for them to re-log into every one of their sites, because that's a real challenge. And how do we create a client-centric system where this is a piece of a technology that's attached to the customer? And I'll give you an example of what I mean by that. Mr. Smith may have a cell phone that's not attached to any one house, but we are managing his Pandora account, his Rhapsody account, his iTunes account. And therefore, we need access to all that information. We need to know that he's got an iPhone 6 and that these are the different services that we installed for him on that device. He's got a Control 4 solution on there so he can control the system. So if he loses that iPhone, we have a clean documentation that says exactly what we need to set up for him. And all of this is leading to a service level that the customers aren't getting today. So hopefully what we believe is that you can monetize this level of service and start charging for service plans. And what the solution is also going to provide is the ability to bill service plans, so that not only are you able to track your service plans reliably and deliver the promises you make and track and job cost those promises, but you can collect billing from that customer. So in a very high level, that is the Ihiji ServiceManager and what it's doing. I'm getting a few people saying that there's a lot of flicker. Before I go on, is that still happening, or has that stopped? Okay. Well, I'm about to switch over to a presentation, so hopefully this stops. So let me switch over to the application itself. And is it any better now? No. All right. Let me stop screen sharing and restart it. How's that look? Flickering. All right. Much better. All right, great. Well, I apologize for that, but hopefully that kind of outlines the story. So that was what we found, and we engaged in a year and a half of customer research to this point. We really spent a lot of time understanding deeply how service departments work across organizations large and small, across industries that are very similar to ours. And then we set out on the path of designing the system from the ground up. And what I'm about to show you is our solution that we've developed and what the Service Manager is, and walk you through the different pieces of the evolution of this software. And then I'll tell you about pricing and launching and how you get into early access and things like that. So from a very high level, depending on who you are in the organization, you're going to log in and see a dashboard. It's happening again. I'm going to try one other thing. I apologize, but let's see if this fixes it. I'm going to get rid of multiple monitors. All right. Is that flickering anymore? It's the best I can do, I think. All right. Well, let's just assume that it's not doing it anymore, and I'll work with it. And I apologize. There's going to be some windows popping up on my screen as I go through this now because I'm only on one monitor. So this is the solution that we came up with. From a high level, when you log in, if you're a technician, you will see how many tickets that you have assigned to you, how many devices are under your management, how many clients you have that are assigned to you that you've touched. If you're a finance guy and you log in, you'll see recurring revenue statistics, how many service plans you've got going, things like that. All this information is digestible in one easy to manage centralized dashboard. That's what we wanted. The concepts here is when you log in, let's talk about that service story that we were outlining before, where a customer calls and has information. I don't know who the customer is, but they call and say, hey, this is Mr. Doe. I can do a quick search here and find really quickly Mr. Doe or Mr. Roberts or Mr. Jones and search that client. I can search by phone number, I can search by address, and if I'm the admin on the other end of the phone, I can quickly click into that client. If I click into the client, here I can see all the information associated with that client. So here's the Doe family, here's their address, here's their primary contact information, here are all their sites. You'll see how many service plans they have, what contacts are associated with it, recent activity for that client. So what tickets have been opened, what technicians have done what lately. Maybe somebody uploaded a photo and attached to that client. You'll see a lot of information in the recent activity. If I want to see what service plans are associated with it, I may click in here, and this could kind of give you an idea of a larger client. If you were doing clients across multiple states and they have multiple homes, maybe each house has a different service plan associated with it. So you can see all their service plans. You can see all the bills associated with each of those service plans, upcoming bills for that client, payment methods, and how those payments are being collected. You can see the contacts on that client. So Mr. Doe's wife, the housekeeper, the son, the daughter, information that's helpful to have at your fingertips. And then you'll see system implementation. So you'll see document information, device information, password information. This will all be captured here. When I click into a site, I want to see what's going on that site. This is my LA residence, and this has a service plan associated with it. Let's go see what the service plan has. The service plan is billed annually. This is the renewal amount. This is the service level association. Maybe I've said to them, you get 2 hours of firmware upgrades a year. This is where you can track that. And we're going to do an annual site inspection and an annual vacation preparation. You can track all those visits here. And then your bills will also flow through here. So I can go into the billing system and I can see what invoices I have coming up, when invoices are past due. And the concept here is now you have a centralized place to capture and visit and view all this information. So the concepts that we're launching with, to begin with, are the ability to track your service plans, because we realize that our Envision users have a hard time tracking their service plans. So when they log into the system, you'll create a user. That user will have a site. The site will have your contracts, and the contracts will have billing periods set up. And the system will go through and auto bill your clients and then spit out invoices that you can either You can either choose to auto bill, or you can send those invoices. You can print those invoices and send them to your customers. Then there will be reporting baked in so that your sales guys will be able to look back and see, well, who are my upcoming bills, who are my expirations, and who do I need to call this month to try to make sure they renew, so that you can get recurring revenue coming in. What we tried to do is figure out where the low-hanging fruit was, where we could help you guys immediately. And then where we want to take this is into documentation and password management and device information, because those are the bigger problems that I talked about. So version 1 of the software will do service plan tracking, billing, and invoicing. Quickly following that, ticketing will be announced or released. Ticketing will give you the ability to open a ticket with that client and associate recent activity, assign that ticket to a technician, track what's going on, attach files to that ticket, and see what's going on over time. And then all this will be searchable and indexable. And then beyond that, we'll give you the ability to attach device documentation. You'll have the ability to document all of your passive information, so serial numbers. We will be integrating the Envision platform into this solution so that your real-time Envision information will be overlaid into the system. And then evolving even more from there. We see this as a very long-term evolution of our solution, our Envision solution in this new platform. So that's kind of the concepts here. From an account level, you have the ability to manage your own accounts. You'll have different team members. Each team member will be able to have their own permissions. You will have the ability to assign technicians to different tiers so they can do reboots, very similar to what they can do in Envision today, remote access, things like that. So all that will be available within the tool as well. So that's kind of a very high-level walkthrough. And like I said, we're launching with the billing and service plan management, and then we will evolve into the device and documentation management. The early access has been extended to a handful of dealers that we talked to at CEDIA, and we're trickling dealers into that as time goes on. And we're listening to the dealers to understand how you want to see this integrate with other solutions. So we're collecting feedback and trying to reprioritize what's next in our development cycles. We will be integrating with other tools, which I'll talk about in a minute here when we get into pricing. But really quickly, we expect QuickBooks to be one of the early integrations, as well as DTools, the ability to push DTools information from your clients into this. Because DTools does a very good job at tracking project delivery and design and engineering up front, but not the ongoing client relationship management. And that's what we want to help with. So you'll be able to, once the DTools project is complete, say push this information into ServiceManager. Ihiji ServiceManager will then have the site, the client, the contacts automatically created. Some of that device documentation will be pushed into it, and it will flow through there. From a very high level, we expect the QuickBooks integration to allow you to tie invoices. So the invoices and billing we want to be able to link in, so that when we do a charge in here, it appears in your QuickBooks solution, so that you're not having to do double entry, because that's one of the things we're really trying to eliminate from a operations standpoint. Yeah, there's definitely some great questions coming in. So we did some dealer surveys a few months ago, and what we learned through that dealer survey is that some dealers are they want help conveying the value of what they're doing to their clients. I think conveying that value really comes down to better reporting. So when we are looking at this tool, we're looking at ways to better report what you're doing to the clients. And because we're tracking ticketing, because we're tracking invoicing, because we have client information, we will have the ability to generate better reports for your customers and say, we did 3 annual inspections and we gave you 6 out of the 6 hours of bucketed services reported. And that will be able to be summarized and sent as a report to the client. That's what we're working towards. We also want to re-envision the Envision application into this, so that the reports such as executive reports or daily digest are made to be more customer friendly and customer facing. So by the end of this year, we are beginning a redesign of the Envision platform, because our platform started off as a very simple monitoring tool, and it's kind of evolved into a very powerful remote network management tool. It's nothing like what we thought it would be when we designed it. So we realized there's some usability that can be improved, and along with that will come better reporting. And all that information will be overlaid, so Envision will actually be contained within the ServiceManager platform. The concepts of this is all responsive, so we developed this to be a responsive application so that technicians in the field can make field changes. So they can say this VLAN is now associated with, or this port is now associated with VLAN 3 very easily on their cell phone, or be able to update a ticket really easily or attach a photo easily on their cell phone. I wouldn't say you're going to capture a lot of information on the cell phone, but we designed this to be responsive and very mobile friendly, using some modern web development techniques. Yes, there's a very quick question on multiple currencies. Multiple currencies is something we did not launch with, but will quickly be implemented. The payment processor we're using does have the ability to do that, so it's just it's a minor limitation right now, but we plan on launching this to international markets as well. So there are some questions here about tracking information on time and things like that. One thing we recognize as we got into this research is that we can't be best of breed of everything. And that means when we looked at this is a really big problem. We don't want to be another Dropbox. We don't want to be another CRM system. We don't want to be another enterprise-grade ticketing system or Harvest time tracking application. We will intend to integrate with best-in-breed solutions for those things, so that if you're using time tracking applications, you can integrate that with your ticketing system. And that's why we're working with our early partners to understand where to draw those lines. But we also realize that integrators don't need best-in-breed for a lot of the things they need. They need a basic ticketing system. They don't need an enterprise-grade ticketing system with different levels of escalation today. So that's the way we're looking at it. As far as timeframes go, the early shipping has already begun. So we've had early access extended to users, where you do service plan management, billing is all integrated. That is slowly trickling out to users as we make development progress, as we properly onboard our users and get comfortable with them and they're comfortable with the solution. We want to make sure everybody has the best experience possible. So it's already done. As far as the evolution of this platform, I honestly see this as a multi-year evolution to get to the point where if you look at the big term vision of this and having all the information from everything and encapsulated into one portal integrating with best of breed, that is a multi-year endeavor. But basic things like ticketing will be available very quickly before the end of this year. Billing, obviously service plan tracking, but now. Device management will be quickly followed after that. Documentation, photo streaming, we expect those to be the next things that we launch. But our developer team is focused on the plumbing right now. And then what we're doing is working on the agile methodology where we are listening to our users and saying, okay, that's great. You guys have nailed the service plans, but what's more important than ticketing is Envision integration to track my service plans. So we have prioritized that over ticketing, and then ticketing will quickly follow. And then we're going to listen to our users and say, okay, what is the next logical thing? Well, we'd like you to go smooth this edge or make a small change here. Okay, let's do that before we focus on forward progress. So that's how we're looking at this and the evolution of the software. We're really leveraging our dealers to drive the forward progress of this. And now that the plumbing's in place, we anticipate being able to move pretty quickly. We're actually we're still hiring on this project to try to get more people to help us develop because we had such a huge success at CDU with it that we wanted to try to get as much done as quickly as possible for our dealers. Yeah, there's a great question on APIs. It was developed on a modern API platform, so we have an internal API. The plan with the internal API was to develop it for external API consumption as well so that we can push and pull information between best-of-breed solutions. So DTools and QuickBooks were two early examples, but maybe you have another solution where you want to be able to push tickets into like a ConnectWise. So that's the plan, is to allow API access to third parties and also to implement with third-party APIs. And we designed it to be that flexible. There are some questions about scheduling, and that's one of those lines that we really, there are a lot of scheduling applications out there. So what we've done is we have scheduled those appointments, but not integrated with any kind of scheduling system. So the questions we're going to ask of our users is, would you prefer to export all these calendar appointments to your calendar application, iCal, Outlook, Google Calendar, or something else? So those are the questions we're going to ask our users to figure out where to take scheduling from there, because I think that's a logical question. So this is a cloud-based solution. This isn't something we licensed from anybody else. This was a ground-up development project. So literally we engaged a user research firm almost, well, not quite 2 years ago, but going back almost that far. Spent 6 months interviewing customers, understanding their challenges, then prototyped development, launched an alpha in June of this year, had the alpha in place, recognized some shortcomings in the alpha, and actually took time to address those shortcomings, which pushed our timelines a little further than we had initially intended, but we think we made the right design decisions and worked with the UX firm to make the best possible user interface because we realize the system has to be very usable. So everything you're looking at here is a live prototype. The live system just has the service plans tracking in it right now, so I wanted to show you the bigger picture rather than talk about the kind of early access side of things, because this is really where we want to get to very quickly, and I think really shows the power of it. The service plan management is what's critical to our dealers right now, and that's again why we started with that, because we wanted to solve the pain point, the immediate pain point, but then work towards the longer pain point over time. Yeah, that's a super question. It will collect payments, so we are going to allow you to store customer credit card information through a PCI compliant system where you can collect your payments through here, and then that money will automatically be deposited into your accounts. So the cloud-based integration with eTools and QuickBooks, it'll be a push-pull. You'll have to do some import exports unless you're using the QuickBooks cloud version. Again, we were working with our early access partners to understand which versions they're on of QuickBooks, because a lot of dealers are actually migrating to the cloud-based, and then there's much cleaner APIs. All right, so there are some other questions coming in. Looking through this, just kind of dissect some of these questions, and I'll get into pricing really quickly after that, and then we will pause for some others. Actually, let me go ahead and flip back over to the presentation, and I'll talk about launch pricing. So the way we're rolling this out is we're rolling this out from a first come, first serve. So if you were at CD Expo and you got an early sign up list, you will get an invite. As we onboard customers, we're inviting other customers. So customers have been put into the pipeline. They're in there using it as they're comfortable, as we're happy with the onboarding, as we make changes to make it goes a little more smoothly for the new customers. We'll invite more people into it. And then we're going to take that feedback and we're going to change the system, make improvements to it, and make sure it's happy, and then invite another wave of people. So go ahead and go to our website at ihiji.com. On there is a sign-up page for the Service Manager platform. Sign up, and that will put you on the list to be invited. Current dealers will get some level of priority. If you're an Envision dealer and you want to use the system, then that will give you some priority in the early access list. As far as pricing goes, the way we're looking at this is standard pricing is as follows for customer tracking, service plan tracking, client billing, Ihiji tracking, and automated billing. It will be $199 a month for up to 3 users, $25 a user after that. If you're doing this basic information, I don't suspect all the users in your organization will need an account, so it's pretty reasonable. That will come with a 14-day free trial as well. And then as we add additional functionality, this will work just like many of the other cloud-based solutions, software as a service solutions, where as you add functionality, the price changes in different tiers, all the way up to an enterprise flex tier. So we will have different tiers with different levels of functionality as we release that functionality. So as you can see, some plans for functionality include ticketing, device tracking, documentation management, activity, photo streaming, integration with third-party applications. Those will involve different tiers. And more than likely, it's not noted here, but QuickBooks will obviously probably be included in the regular tier when we get that integration in place. Yeah, so this is a company price point. We don't want to limit the amount of customers you put in here. We think that the more information you have in here, the more valuable it is to you. So this is price per user within your organization. So you could have 1,000 locations, it's still the same price. So it's not like Envision where it's price per site. So again, the sign up form, if you go to ihiji.com, that gets you on and sign up on the Service Manager form. That will get you on the early access list. As early access slots open up, we will invite you into the system. Timelines as far as next developments, ticketing, and Envision tracking are definitely the next pieces that we'll be tackling. And then following that will be the device and documentation management. The Envision solution will be re-engineered, and probably the first portion of next year will be integrated into the system. I mentioned design will start this quarter. So yeah, there's some great questions about documentation repository and device management. Those are things that, and also the Envision refresh. So to kind of talk about our process, those are things that we have wireframed. We have spent a lot of time understanding the workflow and how to apply those challenges to software. So we've sketched out the workflow of that, but we don't have those in final design form because we chose to focus on the service plan management first and get something out there that you guys can use as quickly as possible. And then we intend on integrating those things into the solution. So the way we're going to tackle things like documentation management, for example, is still something we're working through with our early access users to understand what's most important. So there are several different options. Just to kind of talk through those, we could collect metadata from things like Dropbox and Box and Google Drive and try to search through and index all that information, or we could offer a drag and drop solution that stores your own files based on storage size. We want to hear from our early access users and see what they're already using, if it makes more sense to integrate with third parties or make more sense to give them their own solution. So other than the wireframes and understanding the challenge, we don't have the documentation repository actually functional today, which is why we listed as additional functionality and definitely a high priority feature that we want to add to this. And as far as the Envision refresh goes, that is something we will be engaging our Ihiji dealers with in the next month or so to start that process, because we've got thousands of dealers out there, thousands of users out there who use this solution every single day. And we realize that you guys know the pain points and the improvements, and we see a lot of them in the feature request forums. We see a lot of them when we're talking to you in the field, and we listen constantly. We've got our own roadmaps internally, but when we do the redesign, we will engage in the same user research and understand the challenges and try to reimagine or re-envision, is what we like to say, the Envision product. So that is something we're kicking off very shortly. And what that'll look like is basically if I will log into Service Manager, I can go into that client, I go into that site, and I can see the documents, I can see the passive documentation, so what's happened on the device recently, as well as real-time history and alerting history. Those alerts will more than likely push to tickets. Some tickets may, depending on SLAs in the service plan, trigger emails. Some may not. Some may just log that information. You'll be able to launch Connect Ninja, do the reboots from within there. So as you can see, it'll be a tightly integrated system. And know that that pricing does not include the Envision pricing. Right now and for the foreseeable future, Envision pricing will remain separate. All right, there are a handful of other questions, so I'm going to go ahead and move on to the final slide, and we'll do some final Q&A. I mentioned we wouldn't spend more than 45 minutes here today, so I'm happy to stick around for about 10 more minutes and answer some questions. Yeah, there's some questions about client portals where clients can log in and see tickets. Those are definitely things that we think are valuable. The question is how quickly do we want that to happen, and what priority does that have over other developments? So that's the information we're listening to and hoping to learn from you all. Again, some really great ideas on features that we've thought about or we've heard from dealers and we really love, so keep those coming because I can see you're all starting to imagine the possibilities here. We're where this information can take us, and we're overlaying different pieces of information like Envision status can help your business, and how reporting and customer-facing reports and customer access and smarter access to information and information flow. Those are all the questions that are coming through here. So yeah, hopefully I'm seeing the spark of excitement that we have here because we really do think this is the beginning of a really amazing platform for your business. What we like to think of this as a service operations center. Our industry is, we're not just moving products, we are providing services to our customers, and those services have to be provided at a level that are going to keep customers coming back for more. And to keep customers coming back for more, we need to provide a level of service they're willing to pay a premium for on a recurring basis. And we want to help you deliver those experiences that will allow you to renew those services and deliver that service at that level that's expected. Okay. Well, to summarize, this is the Service Manager platform. It will be a early access program where as slots open up, those who have signed up for early access will get an invitation. So please go to our website, sign up on our website for early access. As I mentioned, dealers will have a level of preference, but it's generally first come, first serve. We're constantly listening to feedback. We're looking for ways to improve this. The service plan management and billing and invoicing are the first things that have launched. Ticketing and Envision integration will quickly follow, and then we're suspecting device documentation, things like that will follow after that, but that's what we're really leaning on our dealers to help us understand. We spent a lot of time researching this project, kind of what I like to call putting the plumbing in place to get to this point. So we think that now that we're here, we can move really quickly. I appreciate everybody's support and time today. If you have any other questions, please contact us. And thanks again. Have a great day.